Hey, it's Soul, and welcome back to Warcraft Weekly, your place for some feel-good, low energy. Hit the like button, subscribe for more commentary, and I have a great topic to kick off with, working from home, because who doesn't love talking about the joys of working from home? Apparently, according to a spokesperson, the leadership over Activision Blizzard ain't fans of it. They've decided that studios under their umbrella will have its staff return to the office and will have to be there 3 days a week by July 10th. Now, here's where I'm going to remind you to use the navigation thing to jump to where you want to go, and also to invite you to share your general thoughts on what you think about the practice of making workers go back to the office. I'm not talking about just Blizzard or just gaming, but in all of these sorts of remote jobs, especially if you support people going back to the office. I want to hear from you. I want to listen. I'm asking this now because for the next few minutes, I'm not going to listen. I'm going to persuade and tell you why this is a terrible move for not just Activision Blizzard, but for just about every company facing this. Nearly no one is coming out a winner here. We can approach this topic from numerous angles, but I'm going to try and narrow my takes. Spoiler alert, I failed. The benefits of having folks return to the office are simply not worth the repercussions. A spokesperson who answered news site Game Developer says that the King portion of the publisher went back to the office back in July of 2022. Activision Blizzard has been returning teams to the office over the past year, the spokesperson said, and that these days are, quote, based on what is best for the business and the team. The spokesperson then says that we look forward to the increased in-person collaboration and teamwork. It's only a spokesperson answering a question, but the way it comes off, I'm not convinced at the slightest that in-person collaboration and teamwork are enough to justify a return to office mandate company-wide. In a recent Q&A with employees, Blizzard President Mike Ybarra said the following, although this may be paraphrased: "At the end of the day, we want people to be happy, and if decisions about being happy don't align with where we're going and you won't be happy, then you'll have to do what will make you happy." I'm really good at making just about anything sound not as bad as it seems. Like, oh, that nerf to your class? No, man, that's just Blizzard retuning and challenging you to do even better. And that passive grind? No, that's not really a thing. It's just passive day-to-day gameplay. Just commit to some diligent farming and you're good to go. Dude, what Mike said was pretty damn clear. If you don't like what we're doing, he's saying, there's the door. There's definitely a value with team members working in the same room or the same campus. There's countless stories of great ideas that came from a chance encounter in the hallway. Among creatives especially, roundtable discussions in an environment away from the distractions from home can keep people focused and inspired. I can see where some teams in game studios would want to get together for in-person collaborations, but it should be when they want to and had come to a collective agreement, but not in the form of mandatory attendance, a unilateral decision that came from up high. Ultimately, if team members are producing and hitting their goals, what's the problem that they're not at the office doing it? Employees at Blizzard are going back to the office by July, less than 5 months from now. But what's happening right now, I bet, since this announcement, is that a non-zero number of employees are looking for a new job because they're like, nope, I ain't doing it. Even if corporate were to try to walk this back, if they don't do it like now, it's going to be too late. I bet recruiters love news like this because it gives them the opportunity to poach. And I'm sure some folks are commenting, well, like those WoW devs, they're just too lazy to go back to the office, probably because being at home lets them slack off, ha ha ha. If someone's working from home, and they're taking that for granted and using that to be minimally productive and otherwise goofing around, that's not a work from home problem. That might be more like an employee problem. It's likely a management problem for not challenging said employee, or a combination of both. The same kind of person is probably also likely to take long smoke breaks and longer lunches when they are at the office. But you know what? I don't think there's a problem with any of that, or taking a mental break to get some air, or to, hang on social media for a little bit, as long as their goals are being met. This ain't no mall job, this ain't high school. You don't need the boss hovering over your shoulder. The boss can just check Jira or whatever tool that they use to see that tasks are getting done and hold people accountable just as easily. The pandemic resulted in mandatory work from home situations that everyone had to readjust for, and the situation was different for everyone. Folks had to reassess their priorities and made do with their circumstances. Like, for example, maybe my car has been sitting here for a year or two now. Do I really need it? Or is it cheaper in the long run to have groceries delivered or to just walk there? Some folks in these situations left the area for a lower cost of living. Others had kids over the past 3 years and have been full-time parents on top of their full-time job at home. When working from home, you can wake up, roll over, flip on the computer, and boom, you're present, and you can start taking messages while you're making toast. You're ready to work right away. But if you've got to go to the office, you gotta wake up early so you can make the commute. That means you need a car, which could mean a car payment, which would mean gas and scheduled maintenance, definitely insurance, or you might take public transit, which you might still need a car for, otherwise you would have to work around a public transit schedule, or you'd have to hope that you can join a carpool that's reliable. And what if you have kids, people at home that you need to take care of? Well, okay, now you need to find some arrangements like daycare or check-ins for your elderly parents, and those sorts of expenses and related stuff, it adds up really, really fast. It's money that you didn't have to pay while working from home. And then there's the process of actually going to work, sitting in the car or the train or the bus for, like, let's say 2 hours total per day going back and forth. 2 hours of your life just traveling between work and home. That's money out of your pocket. You're not producing while you're commuting, you're not getting paid, you're just pleasing the policymakers by showing up. And when you do get to the office, not everyone's going to be there because this is a hybrid model and people are going to show up on staggered days depending on the team. Thankfully, people who were hired as remote workers will have the opportunity to stay remote. At the very least, there's no rug pulling, not yet. Some folks over at Blizzard are able to apply for full remote work under, I guess, certain circumstances, but not everyone's going to get approved. I myself have friends who work in tech or business-related offices. They show up to work only for their in-person collaboration to be in the form of Zoom calls with their counterparts because they live across town, across state, across the country, internationally. They could have been home doing that. Being told that you've got to go back to the office when your work doesn't require you to do so at all is the same thing as getting a pay cut. You might have to relocate, upending yours and your family's life, you lose time traveling, you lose money in case of things like childcare or car ownership. Think of how much that can cost per year, and then consider another job, another place that might have you do the same work with the same pay, only it is fully remote. What do you think people are gonna do? Keep the same job just to prove me wrong? Okay. I haven't even mentioned folks who became or have had some sort of disability when hired. People who have been immunocompromised and really don't want to get sick from COVID, or people who have had COVID and became immunocompromised and can't let themselves get sick again. Not like I know how any of this really works, but I'd figure that the bean counters over at these companies like Blizzard would appreciate wanting to raise the bottom line. They can consider selling off or leasing their giant campus or their building. They don't have to spend as much on a workplace culture or in-house catering. Like, has it ever occurred to them that maybe it's time to evolve? So many years ago, the corporate life was filled with cubicles, and a generation later, it moved to open spaces for free thought and collaboration. And now, we're seeing the idea of the office space move to the cloud. The pandemic sped this transition along and provided innumerable test cases to make this process into a working practice. Now, I follow a ton of WoW devs over on Twitter and social media, and none of them are excited about this news. Heck, no one I've talked to in any industry has been excited about having to go back to their offices for the reasons that I mentioned. Times have changed and the industry is moving forward, but some folks who unfortunately are in charge want to force the old way down workers' throats. Now here's what's likely to happen if leadership's stance does not relax. Folks are going to leave for places where they can work remotely. And you know what's cool about that? Where you live doesn't hold you back. These people's search options are pretty wide. From my feeds, morale at Blizzard is tanking. Workers don't feel acknowledged for what they've produced over the past 3 years remotely. QA, my homies, they're feeling disrespected and marginalized. The next few months are going to suck, as workers at Blizzard are faced with what's directly a lifestyle change and indirectly a pay cut. And I'm hearing that as of this writing that, other things like bonuses were slashed too. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry that I put so much time into talking to this. I love the World of Warcraft, I'm pro developer, and it just makes so much sense to give workers in a creative field like this more autonomy so they can create. I'm trying to listen to why leadership is doing this, but the way I'm seeing it, it's a bad call to make for reasons that are becoming less relevant. It sounds corny, but Blizzard is its people. It's not a place. So how about that World of Warcraft video game, huh? I think we can come back from this, right? We can rally together, sure. The Love is in the Air holiday is approaching its end, and I think that I've demonstrated that streamer privilege is not, in fact, a thing. I think after this weekly's over, someone at Blizzard is gonna nuke my drop rate even more, woo! The question to ask you all is if you've got everything that you wanted this time around. Between the many cosmetics to get is the acquisition of many love tokens earned from daily content and also farming up lovely charms. My favorite place to farm them happened to be the Deaths of Chromie scenario. It's pretty much 15 minutes of mindlessly destroying mutant flowers before you get kicked out and then you just jump back in again. That's how I got caught up with The Last of Us show too. It's really good. You should watch it. Also this week introduced some promotional sales around Valentine's Day because what better way to approach your crush than to say, hey, let's play World of Warcraft together. Dragonflight's expansion bundles are also on sale. There's even a massive bundle on pets that, for the full collection, goes for $69.
Nice!
And like other bundles, it's prorated based on what you've already got, so this is a great opportunity to knock out most of your shop collections. Classic is also on sale, including faction changes, so GG to your server populations. Quick comment here, after hearing that initial Dragonflight sales were lower than they could have been, considering the current discount, why not just have a permanent price drop? I mean, the way I see it, it can't hurt at all. People on the fence will be more likely to try it out, and those who hop onto social media and forums to talk about how the expansion is failing so bad they had to drop the price, well, that's free advertising too, so why not? This week's 1007 build is shedding light on the realities of what we're going to face on the Forbidden Reach, but before that, let's look at some pretty stuff. We're more than halfway through February, and on the 1st of March, the trading post will have a new selection of stuff to choose from. Wowhead data mining revealed the names and costs of items, in some cases models, that are currently present in the 1005 patch, like a spoon. It's dull so it hurts more. That's a reference to something. There's a crazy looking turtle, and here's what's got me super excited. A full ensemble, which I'm gonna guess is not gonna be something that we choose to buy, but something that we'll get for completing the Traveler's Log in a given month. And there's a ton more. Now we don't know if the team is gonna put out a preview for what's going to come out in March, but as soon as we find out, I'll be sure to showcase it for all to see. 1007 data mining has revealed even more weapons and armor that are a mix of recolors and unused appearances that were revealed years ago, like the shield and its additional tints. There's a lot coming, and I'd like to think that there's a little something for everyone to enjoy. Also data mined is a small indicator to when the 1007 patch may launch. A new Noble Garden toy was found called the Drake's Big Basket of Eggs, which decorates your dragon riding mount. It also looks like the cooldown of this toy is reduced during the Noble Garden holiday, which is way better than not being able to use it at all when the holiday is not active. If this toy is on the PTR, at the very least the patch will arrive before Noble Garden begins. Now, of course, I'm still standing by my theory that a patch will come out every 2 months, with 6 patches on the roadmap and 12 months in a year. Kind of makes sense. As for the toy, it's a new thing to spend eggs on. Ideally, it's going to be part of something bigger, big enough to be included on the Dragonflight roadmap. It could be that Noble Garden is getting a bigger update, or that it's the first stage of this other holiday refresh that we can expect to get later in the year during patch 10.17. For the past few weeks, I've been talking about the Forbidden Reach zone and the Scara vaults that we'll explore, and the primordial stones that we'll collect to create a cool ring with customizable effects. Now I'm going to try to wrap it all together and describe it to you as a system. That is, what's the game flow? What's the day-to-day login going to be like? Now this is incomplete. It's just an early look and my impressions so far. Later on, I'm going to release a more detailed guide on how all of it works. When you arrive on the zone each day, you're going to get an opportunity to choose a faction to focus on. Choosing will unlock a daily quest and will also get a buff that provides bonus rep for that faction. From the looks of it, it'll apply to all rep sources, so you can stack this with things like the Darkmoon Fair as well as the catch-ups. There are other dailies on the Islands Hub that give rep with the Dark Talons. That's the Drakthir race faction that I think still needs more items added to their quartermaster. Scattered throughout the zone are a bunch of rares and treasures. The rares at the moment aren't tuned quite right. As of this build, all the rares have had their HP values buffed to 7 million life, which isn't so bad unless you're alone. The rares are equivalent to the tougher ones that we've seen throughout Dragonflight, with abilities and mechanics to look out for. They drop all sorts of goodies, including vault keys, which I'll talk about later, and item level 385 Primal Storm catch-up gear. And in this patch, Primal Storm gear, even the ones that you already possess, can be upgraded one more time to item level 395 using a special item that drops from the zone. What's also cool, the rares don't seem to have a daily lockout, so you can stick to your main and just farm up a bunch of Primalist gear and vault keys and then distribute all that stuff to your alts. Keys are used to explore the Scara vaults. It's an entertaining but right now still very incomplete game of exploration. The objective is ultimately to loot it, and inside you're going to find different toys and lore books, quests, and primordial stones. When you enter, there's a bunch of locked doors that you need keys to open up, and based on the 2 that I've explored so far, you need around 30 to completely explore a single vault. The vault is not an instance, it's a phase specific to you, so this is a solo-only experience. If you're hanging out in the top floor of the vault, when you come back the next day, you'll be in your exact position and any doors that were opened will stay open, but I can't confirm that it's not going to reset each week, and that's because each week the vault changes, and from what I recall, there's going to be at least 5 different vaults. Zone exploration is very open-ended. I guess the vault changing each week would be the closest thing to a time gate, but if you really want to, you can farm up all the keys that you need for every vault and then relax. I talked about the many primordial stones and their powers in another video, but today I want to talk about how to upgrade them, and I'm going to be critical about the way this works. It's a little bit tedious. Collecting stones is no big deal. You explore the vault, you complete events, and you find stones. You'll find stones that you want and don't want, and you'll find copies of them too. These can be broken down into a resource that has 2 uses. First is to upgrade your favorite stones. Jewel crafters happen to be running out of money, so they're getting a new recipe that lets them make an item to upgrade these stones. The other use for them is to spend on a vendor to re-roll for a stone that you want. You can choose the family of stones and then hope for something good. You can even buy another ring, so you can create multiple rings for different situations and rolls, or you can stick to a single ring and pop out the stones. You just need to return to the Forbidden Reach zone to do it. I don't really like that, but that's just how it is right now. So we have a customizable ring. You have stones that you collect throughout the zone, and a loop of grinding down unwanted stones to upgrade and roll for new stones via vendor. The one thing I'm not really fond of, including that we can't pop out our own stones, is the rolling for new stones part. Like, let's say it's the first days of the patch, and I get as many stones as I can, but I don't like any of them. That's gonna feel bad. So I grind them down and I roll for some new stones. But what if I still don't get a stone that I want? I'm gonna have nothing to show for it at all, and then it's gonna feel really bad. I say make this vendor sell the stones outright. At worst, make them more expensive to purchase. I think the player mindset for this feature should explain itself and be focused on building up this ring without the frustration of wasted effort due to RNG. That's what the Great Vault is for. And that's the show.
I have to channel evocation and cast a spell before the fight. Can we do a timer, please?
I did do a timer.
Let me make sure my DBM's good. I didn't see it, or I'm dumb.
Nah, it's okay. Just blame Soul.
I got video record, sir.
Are you streaming our failures again?
Oh yeah.
That's okay. Remember, my name is Carl.
No, it's not, good sir.
I think we got phase 1 down. We know how to do it. There's just a lot of cleanup that's got to happen with getting some more damage in at the start and, the basics of good positioning. Like knowing where to stand and when makes a huge difference, very obvious. And the current challenge is to get the team to remember where they need to be in order to avoid taking extra damage, so they can be ready to run out or run in, and that way they can find that sweet spot where they can stand perfectly still and just pump without getting in anyone's way. So there's still a ways to go. The team rightfully calls me out when I get just killed or when I forget to put out a feast, but of course it's another thing when they forget to use healing or cooldown potions that would really make a difference for poor healers. For those of you who don't pay any attention at all to the goings on over inside the Blizzard studio, WoW had itself a pretty decent week. I didn't even mention the MDI, which went on during this recording, and if Twitch numbers were any indication, it did extremely well. Data mining and previews are giving us a lot to look forward to in the coming weeks and in patch 10.07, but I have nothing to apologize for when it comes to showing my support for the team by calling out instances like this where I think they're being mistreated. It's the same way I'm going to call out the WoW team if this and that feature is going to have a negative impact on players. I just want all of us to be happy. So let's close this out with a warm thanks to our lovely Twitch subscribers, our valued patrons, and to you, viewer, for making it to the end. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more commentary, catch me live, and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.